I am not a scientist, and I'm not a psychologist, but I fear I'm someone they may want to study. I've racked up 50 years on this planet, and in that time, I've ruffled a few feathers, trampled on plenty of toes, broken a few hearts, and on the odd occasion, I've absolutely lost my shit with friends, family, and those around me. Essentially, I was being human. But more telling was that rarely in my eyes was I ever to blame for the upset and destruction I left in my wake. The reality, however, was rudely reflected to me by a Bromley Relate therapist who skillfully held up a proverbial mirror, and I caught a glimpse of someone I didn't know and someone I didn't really like. So I chose to study me and put myself under a spotlight. I've spent the last 10 years slowly unpicking what it means to be Marissa. Gone away, learned about behaviours, traits and self, and I've tried putting myself back together with a greater understanding of who I really am and not who I think I am. So let me take you to where I am right now, at this moment in time. I'm at work. My colleague, Daniela, only 20 at this point, gave me some feedback. Marissa, she asked very politely, can I have a word? Now, this was at a time when those few words gave me so much anxiety, partly because they were normally followed by, I'm handing in my notice. So you can imagine my surprise when she turned to me, took a deep breath and said, Marissa, sometimes some of the things you say make me feel really uncomfortable. My brain went into fight mode. What do you mean I don't say things like that? Freeze frame. Have you been here before? Have you been in a situation where someone has said something to you and you feel the emotions churning away inside? I've been here before. This isn't the first time someone's given me some feedback and I've reacted. Let me enlighten you. Many years ago, and sadly, many years ago still makes me a grown woman over the age of 30, I was sat in a pub in Honor Oak, not far from here. My best friend had invited me for a drink. Great, I thought, night out, few bevies, good catch up. We sat down, we exchanged the usual pleasantries, and then she gave me some feedback. Feedback that I was not expecting or prepared for. It took me by surprise to hear that some of the things that I had been saying to her and to our friends were deemed unkind. It took my emotions by surprise. I started crying. I then got really angry. I ended that drink and I went home. The impact of that feedback can probably be found on deleted text messages of a phone long gone saying, I'm not like that, you've got me wrong. So, what did I learn here, reflecting back on that moment? I had no self-awareness. I had no idea about my behaviour and its impact on other people. In the words of someone I'm going to introduce you to later, I was unable to listen to my friend like what she said might be true. So let's fast forward a little bit to that Bromley Relate therapy room with Diana, the therapist, and my partner at the time, trying to work out why our relationship wasn't working. And of course, nothing I had done was wrong. I had done everything right. I was the partner with the unimpeachable record in this relationship, and I was having to put up with so much poor behaviour and emotional immaturity from a partner clearly lacking. This is when the feedback came. Diana, the therapist, helped me recognise that some of the behaviours and traits I was displaying in this relationship weren't actually too dissimilar to the behaviours and traits I abhorred in people close to me. My reaction? I was horrified. I was upset. And I suddenly went back to that pub in Honor Oak and for the first time thought, maybe my best friend was right. And maybe I was just unable to listen to her like what she said might be true. So what did I learn here? My self-awareness had suddenly grown. A moment of proper reflection, an opportunity to see my true self and my behaviours and actually agree. Diana had a front row seat to my life, like my best friend had. But this time, I chose to listen, like what she said might be true. And now I come to my moment of shame. Not that long ago, I was called out by my line manager that the comments I had made to my own line report were discriminatory and verging on racist. This was the bitterest pill of feedback I've ever had to digest. But here I was again, accused of something that I abhorred in others. My reaction? Denial. That's not what I meant. She's taken what I've said the wrong way. Here I was again, not to blame in this situation, but I was. I cried for 2 days, but after a little introspection and self-reflection, I realised that what my boss had said was true. And I had to own that I had made someone feel so uncomfortable they were unable to tell me themselves. I felt ashamed at my behaviour and ashamed at my own ignorance. So what did I learn here? My self-awareness had grown even more. And my emotional management, well, that still needed a bit of work. But the penny had dropped on the importance of the awareness of others. I thought I had great empathy, but I didn't. And humility. I had to accept that I had played a huge part in the making of that situation. I also learnt that the world of work and life had changed immensely since I was a young woman at the start of her career on an engineering floor, surrounded by hairy-arsed engineers and page 3 calendars, where un-PC-ness and bluntness were the normal state of play, where the sensitivities of others never really were considered. I realised that the role models that I had had growing up and growing into my career probably weren't the best, and that the young woman dragged up in the 80s and the 90s had to change. I realised that other people's expectations were different, and should always be respected. And to be a good manager and a good human, I had to unlearn behaviours and ways of a time before and be better. Leadership development facilitator David Joshua says, self-awareness is just another word for learning how you're doing it wrong. He's also the same man I referred to earlier who said, sometimes we need to listen like what others say might be true. In between all these incidents, I didn't sit idle. I'm a learner. When I don't understand something, I go and find out. So over the last 10 years, I've read books on emotional intelligence, attachment theory, personality types. I've been to therapy, been to mediation, done some coaching. I've done hundreds of online personality tests. I understand my values and I better understand my strengths and my weaknesses. And I've even meditated. But without the feedback from Diana, from my best friend, from my boss, and all the people who have come after, I don't think my response to Daniela would have been the same. So let me unfreeze frame and take you all back to work. Sitting in front of Daniela with all of those experiences, all of that learning, and all of those emotions, I simply turned to her and said, I'm sorry. Please tell me how I can do things differently. Daniela has gone back to university. She will always be the courageous colleague who was honest, and I chose to listen like what she said might be true. Be more Daniela, I tell my team, and we can help each other improve. David Joshua's wisdom gave me the courage to stand here today and bear my truth to you all, in the knowledge that what I was sharing had value, that as friends, colleagues, and individuals in the community, we can help each other improve and be better humans. David says, the greatest act of love for another is this, to work on oneself. And if you do, you instantly improve everything for everyone, including yourself. Feedback is probably the fastest, easiest, and most reliable source of self-improvement. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not the finished article. And even at this age, there is still room to grow. So go out into your community, take courage, have uncomfortable conversations, and be more Daniela and give feedback. And if you are on the receiving end of some feedback, show humility. Listen like what that person says might be true, without letting those emotions overwhelm you. And then think, how can I do things differently? I'd like to say, be more Marissa, but I don't think I'm there yet, am I?